Hi guys, this is Rob, and welcome back. Today is mastering day. We're going to take this track. This is the track that I did 5 videos on, producing uh, building a 138 beat per minute uplifting trance track, whatever you want to call it. Today we're going to master it, and we're going to use KClip, which is a audio clipper, and I'm going to show you how that uh, creates a lot of potential for even more loudness, you know, so you can win the loudness war, something that I'm not particularly necessarily a fan of. Okay, so I want to make a couple quick points. The first point is I'm not a mastering engineer, and my guess is that a lot of you guys out there that are producing in your bedroom studio are not mastering engineers either. You know how to use the plugins, and you know what a limiter is, and multiband compression, and dynamic EQ, and uh, regular EQ. But I just want to preface this video with saying, oh, first of all, I'm going to stick around to the end, and I'm going to throw up a little challenge to you guys, and see if any of you are game. So stick around for that. But the first point is I would recommend, and even though I've learned more and more and more about mastering, I would still recommend sending your track off, get it mixed really well, but send it off to a mastering engineer. Those guys know the tricks. They know how to get the low end punchy, under control, get the highs sounding sparkly without being harsh. They know how to bring that level up without distorting, and they're just going to make it louder. And my results, and I've used LabelWorks mastering, and they're excellent. And they're pretty well known, but just Google LabelWorks with an X, WORX. They're really good. And I've gotten tracks back from them, and I'm thinking, boys, did I actually produce this track? Because, man, this thing sounds really good. They do a really, really good job. But if you want to give it a go on your own, this video will get you most of the way there. But that final push, that commercial sound, those guys know the tricks. So if you can spend 50, 75 bucks, maybe even less than that, depending on whatever mastering package you choose, I'd go for that. Find a good mastering engineer. Okay, so that's that point. The next point I'm going to make is prepping this track for mastering. This project was a little bit hot. In fact, it was clipping on the final output about 0.3 of a dB over into the red. And so what I did is I put a gain plug-in on the master output and turned it down. I have no problem with that, and I've researched it. Now, there's a lot of guys out there on the message board that'll say, well, you can't do that because you're impairing you're limiting your dynamic range. You just can't do that. Well, I read up on the subject, and there was this one guy on this one message board. He actually did a null test, and what that is you take 2 different processes, you bounce a track using 2 different processes, and then you reverse the phase on one of them, and then everything that's identical in the track they'll cancel each other out, and what you're left over is the difference, the artifact, that the difference between if you would have done it with going in and turning down all your individual channels and without. And the guy did that. He went in and turned down all of his individual channels, and which is the approved way. That is the way that everybody says you got to do it. And then he did it just turning down the master bus. And the difference, he had a little bit of a difference show up that was at minus 39 dB. It was barely audible. He had to turn up his studio monitors to full blast to even hear it. So you're not really impairing your potential dynamic range that much. I mean, if that's negligible in my book. So I have no problem with you just turning down everything at your stereo output. That way you won't have to pull your hair out, trying to turn everything down, and you may have 70, 80 tracks and have to turn everything down and make sure that you're not changing the state of all your group compression. You know, have to go in and readjust all those depending on how you have your project routing in your project done. So just put a gain plugin or utility gain plugin on whatever DAW you're using and just turn down the master output to where you have 3 to 6 dB of headroom. And that's what this has. This one is 3.2 dB at its highest peak, which is right here. You can see that sticking up there, okay? So I had to take a few passes on the bounce, because when you're bouncing from a raw track, you have all your synths and all your effects, all your instruments still going, and they're going to play different every time. They're going to, with, you know, your random oscillators, you know, that are not retrigged right on the, you know what I'm talking about, random oscillators. They're all going to play at different times, and they may synchronize and create a peak. And so I had to play it back about 4 times to get it to where it was minus 3.2 dB. You know, I had a couple passes that were minus 1.9, minus 2.5, which is a little bit too hot for my taste. So I finally got a pass at minus 3.2 dB at its highest output. Okay. And so I did a couple little fade in, one fade out to make sure there's no popping at the end. And then I set this mastering project up with 2 auxiliary channels, auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2. And the way you do that is when you set your send to the auxiliary channels, you option click, and that will set it at unity. You'll see it's at 0 there. Let me click that again. It's at 0. And so it's just like it's running to the master bus, except it's running through an auxiliary channel where you add your effects. Okay, so let's dig in. I'm going to play this, and I have this turned down a little bit so it doesn't blast your ears, because it's going to sound a lot different. Okay, for those of you who have followed the building, you know, the other 5 videos of building this track. So let's give it a go. I'm going to play it. This is mastered without KClip. I have the KClip. I have them both soloed, but I have this one muted. So this is the channel. This is the signal flow. It's going through this channel and out the stereo out. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that's pretty loud. That is so weird, hitting the stop button and not having the reverb and delays all ring out. And I've spent so much time on this track. Okay, so I'm going to dig in here and show you what I did. Now I don't know if I should turn this down maybe a little bit more. Let me turn it down a few more tenths here. Okay. First in the signal chain is SSL Compressor. And all that I'm doing here is the slowest attack, fastest release. That's the general setup for your master output. And it's very, very subtle. And what it does, it just kind of brings everything in and brings the quiet stuff up just a hair with your, you know, when you use the makeup gain. I've got the makeup gain at 1 dB, because on average, that's probably on average. I mean, the peak is going to be 2 dB, but on average, you're going to be about 1 dB of that was kind of in my to my ears unity. So okay, so I'm going to A/B it. You won't be able to hear it unless you're on headphones and you have really, really fresh ears. It's very, very subtle, but it glues everything together. It gives it that makes it sound like a record. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what it's doing is just ever so subtly bringing things together, you know, a little bit more cohesive sound, okay? The next in the chain is, and by the way, this KClip track, after I mastered it the process that I would do without KClip. I copied all the plugins over here with the exact same settings into Auxiliary 2 and just added KClip. Okay. All right. So the Oxford Inflator. What does this do? This is a loudness plugin. Makes everything sound better. That's basically all it does. I don't know how it does it, but it does it. Okay. So I'm going to play it and I'm going to A/B it, and you'll see what it does. It's one of those plugins that you really notice when it's gone. Watch when I turn it off here. Now turn it off. It's just one of those plugins that everybody should use, I think. I recommend it. You can use it on group. You can use it on your groups. You can use it on a lot of things. You can even use it on your kick to make your kick sound even fatter. Okay? And yeah, I bought this years ago, and I've got it in a 32-bit wrapper. I don't know why. I think I can get a 64-bit, but I just haven't done it yet. See, watch how it kind of see that. Anyways, okay, let me go to the next one here. The next plugin in the chain is the Abbey Rhodes EQ. And this is an old plugin. It's no longer available. In fact, it was discontinued when I bought it. I was hot to buy this plugin. Then they discontinued it. So I sent an email off to Abbey Road support and said, hey, I know it's discontinued, but can I buy it anyways? And the guy said, sure, give me a call and I'll send you a buy link. And so I had to call him, and shoot, I was actually calling Abbey Roads, and some bloke in the UK, London, answered the phone. Nice guy. He actually gave me a lower price than I was ready to pay too, which really worked out good. So what I did here is I gave a push at 16K with a relatively wide Q, blunt. This is sharp over here, SH. And then down here at 3.25K, 3200 hertz. Medium Q just gave a little bit of taste there. And then I carved out a little bit of the lower mids, just a hair, because things have a tendency to load up a little bit there. And I gave a little bit of a push at 64 hertz, just to add a little bit of color to the bass at a medium Q. Just a little bit of kind of analog-y. You know, you'll see. It's very subtle. You probably won't even be able to hear it again unless you're on headphones, okay? So it's very subtle. It's adding a little bit of crispness, a little bit of sizzle, and a little bit of warmth on the bottom end. Very, very subtle. All the moves that I'm going to be making are pretty subtle. I mean, as far as the controls go, obviously the Oxford Inflator, it makes a big difference, even though the settings were very subtle. Okay, and then going on down the line here, speaking of the highs, which I just boosted, to take away a little bit of the harshness, I use the Isotope Ozone 7 Dynamic EQ, and I started with this is an EQ that works dynamically based on the signal that it's getting. And so I started with the smooth high-end preset, and then I kind of adjusted a little bit, and it's kind of cascades down, and it barely kisses the low end. And then the lower mids here, it's bringing it down a little bit, and then right here at 2500 hertz, that is a area where frequencies can really pile up, and so it's ducking in there. You'll see it when I play it. Okay, I'm just A/B it for you here. Now you can see how everything's brighter, and it's a little bit too bright, in my opinion. So this is bringing things down under control and taking a little bit of the harshness away. In my opinion, those are what my ears are telling me. Okay, what do you think? You can see right there, it's a couple dB dynamically of gain reduction at the highest, most harshest peaks, and it's right in here in the area where the ear fatigue area, so it's kind of getting that under control, making it sound more silky. Okay. Next in line is a stereo imager, and I started with a modern width, which is a very good preset, and then I dialed it down a little bit. What it's doing down here is monoizing everything right down here. At the very, very lows, everything down about below 100 hertz. But I already had everything monoized. So, and then up here at, let's see, it's this one here. Between your mids and then your highs is broadband. It's adding a little bit of width, and then on the very highs it's adding a little bit more, but this is all very subtle. I think it goes up to 100, but just very subtle. I'll A-Bing it for you here. And so what it's doing, it's just making the stereo signal on the outside, the sides, it's a little bit louder. Okay, just to give them a little bit of a boost. Okay, and then this is just adding a little bit of distortion. This is the Ozone 7 exciter. It's on the retro circuit, and I'm guessing that this models transformers of some sort. And what it does, it adds musical harmonic distortion. Not very much on the didn't add very much, didn't do on the additive side, and the mix is not at 100, but it's only at 59%. But it makes a big difference because it's adding that analog warmth. Okay, so I'll A-B, and it makes a big difference to me, to my ears. But let me A-B it for you here. Just kind of really opens up the mix, and that's what this harmonic distortion plug, that's what they do. They kind of add separation almost with that harmonic distortion, and this is doing an excellent job. First time I've used this, by the way, and I'm pleasantly surprised. Okay, and that was the last actual kind of sweetening effects that I've added to the sound and compression here. And then, yeah, that's the last one, right? Yeah, exciter. Okay. And then a limiter, the Waves L2. And you'll notice that I'm getting 5.2 gain reduction at the loudest part of the track. I don't want to go any further than that. And what that translates to, I'm using this Slate compressor limiter with the compressor and the limiter turned off because I really love their meters. The meters are just great. I mean, I've used this for years only as a meter. I haven't really mastered anything with the compressors. Maybe one day I'll dig into it and learn how to do it, because you can actually add punch and detail, and I've never really taken the time to do it. So it's kind of funny. You pay money for a plugin and then you don't read the manual. So read the manual. Okay, so this is what it's, the loudness on this, you'll see it here come up in RMS. Okay, so you're right at about 9 RMS. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, as long as your track is compressed, you've got, you're adding effects that bring things out, and kind of open things up and add sizzle. You know, in my opinion, it doesn't, especially a track with a high beats per minute track like this, you don't really have to go overboard. I mean, I could push it to 7, you know, RMS, but I wouldn't want to go much further than that. Okay, things are going to start breaking up. You may not hear any distortion, but you're going to have some, your low end, you start getting that fluttering. And so I don't have a problem with this. And this is the way I probably would have mastered the track. I may go back to the mix and turn down some of the effects that I've learned were problematic. I may actually do that. Some of the cymbal crashes toward the end here were making the limiter flutter. I'll show you that later. But yeah, this is the result. Which isn't bad. So, all right, so let's switch over now to the, and remember this was without KClip. We're going to switch over to the KClip bus now. Without KClip, minus 5.2. That's what it's, that's the amount of gain reduction that you're getting at the loudest part of this track. That's what I'm getting. Okay, remember that, and I'll remember it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to mute this track. I'm going to unmute this track. And now let's play the KClip. But first, let me show you what the KClip does. KClip, what it does is it will, inside the plugin, it will clip the highest peaks right off your signal. Just digitally clip it, and you can adjust the, I guess this is kind of a tack. It softens it a little bit. I got that turned up a little bit. It's the knee, you know, the ramp. Okay. So you're adding gain into the plugin, and at the same time, the plugin is turning the output gain down. So what you're doing is you're not getting any measurable difference in the perceived loudness, but you'll see here it was running in tandem, even though it was muted. It's clipping, it's digging into the track 1.8 dB. So what does that mean? Well, that means you just picked up 1.8 dB of headroom or 1.8 dB of extra loudness, all other things being equal, which on this track it's not, because there's a problem right here. See that bulge right there? Right there. One of my effects was too loud, and it caused the kick, and it caused the limiter to flutter. Okay. All right. So I'll just play it here, and you'll see that this track is in fact louder. So we're picking up on average on the RMS about 0.8 of a dB of loudness. I don't want to push it any further. I tried pushing it further, but again, right back here, let me just show you here. I'll open up my limiter and I'll pull this down to 10, which is where I originally had it. So let me just play it here, and I'm going to pull it down to 10, and you'll see the loudness increase in the RMS decrease. But there was a problem with that. Right here, where it fades out to the final mix out, you'll hear the kick causes a little bit of fluttering, and it kind of goes do 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 do. See if you can hear it. Whoops, I didn't play it back far enough. It's right about here. Okay, right here. you hear how the kick broke up right there? Play it again here. And so I don't want that. So I'm not going to push this unless I were to go back into the mix and bring down some of the highs right there. Okay. I'd bring the highs. I'd just turn them down with automation. And then I wouldn't get that fluttering, that kick going like that. And so anyways, that's basically how you use KClip. You crank it up and set it to however much clipping you want. I got it to 1.8. I've actually seen track. I published a video of a track that has about 5 using a different plugin, using the Bit Crusher by Logic. It's that inspiration from Project Templates, if you want to check that out. The only, he didn't have a limiter on that. All he had was, it's a template that I bought that was produced by another producer. All he had was the Bit Crusher, and it was just clipping the top of the signal, and it was really loud if you want to listen to how that sounds. Okay, and so this is pretty much where I'm at here. Take this back down to 9.4. This is where I'm at mastering this track. This is what I accomplished. I think the louder one sounds pretty good. But you'll notice I'm actually getting less gain reduction than I did on the non-KClip track. So there's even more headroom in there. So anyways, the challenge that I have is that maybe there's some guy out there watching this, or a couple guys that know a lot about mastering. And you know what? If you want to take a crack at this track, just send me a message and I will send you the file, and we'll see what you can do. And then I will make a video on the result. And I'm not trying to get free mastering, but by the way, I just, if you're in Logic, you can even send the project and I'll pull the project up, and we'll see how you did it. So anyways, thank you very much for watching. And if you like this video, hit that like button. And if you'd like to subscribe to this channel and keep up to date with my new videos, hit that subscribe button. That'll make me happy. And thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.